Hello Internet and welcome to Know Your Combo series. The premise here is simple. I'll try to explain some of the more common commander combos and show you how and when to interact with them. This episode will cover Conspicuous Snoop, a small dorky goblin that can quickly end any game he appears in. Did I make this episode because I have a Krenko player in my playgroup and want the other people to know how to deal with this? Perhaps, but you have no proof of that. Alright, let's start by taking a closer look at our goblin. Conspicuous Snoop is a 2/2 goblin rogue that costs 2 red mana to cast. He makes us play with the top card of our library revealed. We also can cast goblin spells from the top of our library. And the most important part. Snoop itself gains the ability of any goblin that is currently revealed on the top of our library. As you may imagine, the last part is the main focus of the combo. We have a lot of goblins in Magic, and some of them have very specific abilities. But if there's something that's called a goblin combo, you can probably safely assume that Kiki-Jiki Mirror Breaker is involved in some way. And that's also the case here. If we have Kiki-Jiki on top of our library, Snoop gains his ability to create a token copy of a non-legendary creature with haste. And while Kiki-Jiki itself is a legendary goblin, especially designed this way so you cannot target him with its own ability, Conspicuous Snoop is not. So you can use your Snoop with Kiki-Jiki ability to create a token copy of Snoop, with haste, which can create another copy of Snoop. This by itself is not a game-ending board state. There's some additional pieces needed to win with an arbitrarily large amount of tapped goblins, which means we need to do some kind of a breakdown. Let's start with the setup. For this combo to work, we need a specific card on top of our library. Fortunately, we have a goblin for that. Goblin Recruiter to be precise. Its Enters trigger allows us to search our library for any amount of goblins, and put them on top in any order. Using this ability we can create something called Snoop piles. Those can be different depending on your situation, and we'll touch on that later. If by some chance we draft one of our combo pieces, there's a way to fix this and put them back into our library, using Scroll Rack's ability. Other cases would require additional colors of mana, so I'll skip them in this video. Okay, we have some ways to put a specific goblin on top of our library. After that we need to have our Snoop on the battlefield. Then we need to have a way to use abilities that require tapping a creature to activate. If for some reason our Snoop sticks around for a full turn cycle and can attack, that's half of the job. We can also suit him up with some Swiftfoot boots or have a haste enable, like Anger in the graveyard. If those aren't possible, we can add Torch Courier to our chosen Snoop pile, and then cast him from the library for 1 red mana, use its ability and grant Snoop haste. At this moment we should abuse Kiki-Jiki's ability to create a goblin army, but we need some way to turn those bodies into a win. Fortunately we have some options. If Impact Tremors or Goblin Bombardment is on the battlefield, the problem should solve itself quite fast. Same with the presence of General Creed, the Bolt Bringer. Once again, if those aren't available, we have a goblin for that. Mog Fanatic to be precise. If we put him on top of our library, all our Snoops can sacrifice themselves to deal 1 damage to any target. With this lengthy introduction, we can finally show an example, in which I'll assume that we have our Snoop in hand. So let's go. We cast Conspicuous Snoop for 2 red mana. After that we cast Goblin Recruiter for 1 generic and 1 red mana. Using Goblin Recruiter's ability we put Kiki-Jiki Mirror Breaker and Torch Courier on the top of our library, in that order. We cast Torch Courier from our library for 1 red mana. Then we sacrifice him, granting our Snoop haste. Now Kiki-Jiki is the top card of our library, so we can use his ability to create large enough goblin army. With the last untapped token copy of Snoop, we target Goblin Recruiter. triggering its effect and putting Mock Fanatic on top of our library. That allows our Snoop horde to commit a ritual Sudoku and win in the true Goblin fashion, by throwing itself at enemies until there are none left. Truly a Goblin moment. Okay, time to figure out how to stop this bullshit, right? Snoop lines are strictly creature-based combos. That means our usual tools of dealing with them works here as well. Curse Totem stops all activated abilities of creatures. Weathered Runestone and Gravedigger Cage can stop some lines, since additional goblins cannot be cast from the library. And of course we have good old removal targeting Snoop in response to the first activation. The goblin does not have any built-in protection. There's also a very cute avenue to really tilt a goblin player and break this combo. You can time Thought Scour or Winds of Rebuke to just mill the top 2 cards of the library, which not only breaks Snoop Loop, but also puts Kiki-Jiki into the graveyard. The best timing would be at the start of the combo cycle, be it first activation of Kiki-Jiki's ability to create token copy of Snoop, or in response to third courier cast if the haste is needed. Not much more to say here, to be honest. Snoop combo is a very Goblin thing. Simple and effective, but fragile and can fail in extremely spectacular way. It's also quite common since the most important pieces should be in almost any Goblin-based decklist. This will be all for today. Someday I'll remember to put those whole YouTube calls to action earlier in the video, but not today. Still, you can push the button so my analytics number go brrr and algorithm Jesus is happy. See ya in the next one.